Hi everyone, it's Movement, Art and Soul with Karen Sparks. And I'm a counselor, an artist, and a movement artist. And this channel is about your personal spiritual journey towards enlightenment, integration, wholeness, healing, individuation, personal spiritual synthesis, words like that. And today's topic is, when is it good when I feel bad? Or you could look at it like, when is feeling bad actually a good thing? Well, I want to share a story around a teacher that I had that was a teacher I studied with for a very long time, and that was my Kung Fu and Qigong teacher. And a lot of what he talked about when he shared philosophy, healing philosophy, spiritual philosophy, a lot of what he shared was around this whole idea around enlightenment, personal spiritual synthesis, all those words, healing, wholeness, integration, things like that. And one of the things he says, we're not here to give you a six-pack. He said, that's a side effect of what we're doing, because we worked really intensely. So the physical body got into very good shape. Fitness was a side effect. He said, but this isn't what we're here specifically to do. He said, so if you're here to do this, go to the gym. He said, we're not here to do that. That's a side effect. Really, what we're doing is we're putting you inside you. So he had some broken English, but he would often use a metaphor of, we want to put your hand into the glove. The glove's invisible. That's the essence of who you really are. That's your spirit. So basically what he was saying is, we're aligning you on all these denser levels, like your spiritual level, your small personality, you know, what you present into the world, to something deeper, so that the connections are there and the communication channels are open, but you're aligned now, you're listening, you are expressing that into the world. And as he would say, you are expressing the essence of who you really are. And that's it. And so when we looked at Kung Fu Qigong, he used to say, this is the path of developing abilities over time through hard work. To do what? To do whatever you need to do in your life. And that's it. And so that whole little bit there was something he repeated over and over and over. It's hard work to develop the abilities to do whatever you need to do in your life. And that's it. And that's huge. I mean, we could write a book about that, right? That is what all these spiritual paths and teachers are all talking about. We're talking about being who we really are, but who we really are, what we imagine we are some different things. And there's a journey to it. There's a whole journey to this. I really like this particular song. I don't know, I may have to try to put it up on one of my playlists and tell you about that on another playlist. About there's a song I really like that represents the personal spiritual journey towards synthesis and wholeness. But the work is so fascinating, because this topic today is about, when is feeling bad actually a good thing, or when is it a good thing when I don't feel well? And when that is, and he would say the same thing. He would say this. He would say, when I didn't feel well, my teacher got excited. And my teacher taught me, he said, to find things within me that I couldn't do, that showed me illness, signs of illness inside me. Because he said, then I have something to work with. And so he would share that with me. And that's how I began to approach things. I began to approach things like, oh, if I can't do this, there must be a sign of something, like a tight, let's say, a tightness in this one particular area. Oh, that's a sign, because, you know, as we understood it, the energy flows, the meridians and the organs and our entire system will speak to us when we can't do something, because in our path, our body moved in a very whole, very circle-like manner, holistically, and very dynamic as well as static. I mean, it's amazing the different movements we would do. And so that's what he would say, is that we're actually releasing things and pushing through things, and just teaching you that if you find something inside you, whether you have a chronic illness or some tight areas, that's showing you something you need to work on for you. Self-reflection was huge. Huge. I mean, Iyengar talks about that too. When in his earlier works in particular, he mentions how important it is to self-reflect, and that the one who actually is the student that will attain enlightenment quicker is one that takes the path in a certain way and works in a certain manner, and that is a very important thing to reflect upon when we're doing this kind of work. Why are you doing this work? What is it you seek? And if you're seeking personal spiritual synthesis, enlightenment, wholeness, integration, individuation, words like that, healing, then there are certain things that you need to pay attention to. When you don't feel well, pay attention to that. Do you need to rest? Is it that you're responding to something that's going on in your environment that you need to work through? Do you need some support? How are your eating and drinking habits? Do you need some specific types of movement and breathing patterns that can assist you? What is it telling you? So when we're not expressing the essence of who we really are, he would call that illness too. And again, he had broken English, so some of the terminology that he used, we'd have to interpret that. How I interpreted that, and I've had discussions with him, that it's a sign to us that there's something going on in our lives that we need to work through in order for that full expression to come out. And so that was when I embarked on the journey, realizing this is a lifelong journey because there's always more to uncover. You know, I'm certainly different than I was when I was 15, 20, 25, 35, 45, so on. I have grown and shifted and changed. I'm not that same person. And that is how you can look back and see that the journey is working for you. If you can see that you've developed more, you've evolved, you have deeper understanding about these paths, and that things are actually shifting for you. You're seeing your patterns. You're getting to know yourself and how you create what you create in your world and how you cope with and deal with what is going on in the world around you. So when something is not going well for you, the first thing to do is stop and ask yourself. Be like a detective. That's what I tell my son. I say, when you're not feeling well, be a detective. Did you eat something you shouldn't have? How are you thinking? What's been going on? You know, be a detective. Try to get to the root of it, because there are roots to things. And sometimes we just need a rest. Sometimes our bodies are saying, hey, I just want a day of rest and you're pushing me. I need to rest. I'm not feeling well. If we take a look at our society, I can tell you this, oh my gosh, just from working with so many people, how disconnected we are from listening to ourselves. And so we do develop these chronic patterns of not feeling well, whether it's a mood or a physical something or other. Our stress is just so super high. And these things do affect us. I've mentioned on other playlists. It affects the way we breathe. It affects our posture, which creates postural holding patterns, which then in fact do create other types of blockages and issues around the organ flows and so on. So this is we are very complex beings, but in a way it's kind of simple too. You can take it as deeply or as simply as you want to. The thing is, you need to listen to yourself. And start with looking at yourself and really getting in touch with your body, with your feelings, with your thoughts, and asking yourself, how aligned do I feel with the essence of who I really am? And look at your life, because your life will give you signals around that. That was my phone going off, but I'm not going to take that out. These things happen. And your life will give you signals around that. So that is the answer to the question for today's video around when is it good when I'm not feeling good, or how is feeling badly actually a good thing? It's a good thing when you take it as a sign. It's a good thing when you realize that it's a part of you trying to tell you that when you get connected, then you know what's good for you. And my teacher used to say, then you will put yourself where you need to be for you. Now, this has been a part of my journey too, on multiple levels, and it is definitely like peeling an onion, which is a metaphor that I heard from when I was studying Gestalt, but it does come from other lines because many other people talk about that these days too. Peeling, it really is peeling the layers, right? And we can cry sometimes when we peel an onion, right? Because this work is not always fun. We don't need to take it so heavy and seriously, but at the same time, there are going to be times when we go into the dark night of the soul, where we're climbing mountains, where we're feeling like, oh my gosh, is this really worth it? This is making me feel worse. I remember I was doing a talk one time to some ladies around Qigong, and one of the older ladies said, why is it that when I do Qigong, I'm actually feeling worse? So we had a little talk, and what came out of the talk, I'll just give you just like the quick end result of that, was the fact that when she was doing it, stuff was coming up. So doing your real work, when you do real work, when you really are working personally and spiritually, you are going to get things that come up, and they don't make you feel great. It does stir up the unconscious. Material comes forward to work with. So I explained that to her. I said, well, and she knew that her body was not healthy, and she wasn't feeling well to begin with. So when you do start moving, now this is something any athlete will tell you, or someone who goes to the gym, you're not going to feel great right away, because you're going to have to push through to build up your strength, your flexibility, and so on, and you will feel some pain. But when this woman was talking to me, she was talking to me more about the lines of mental emotional pain. But if we take a look at even with people that go to the gym, they'll explain about mindset and sometimes how emotional they can become when they're working. So when you're doing this kind of work, you may feel it even more because you don't have the distractions like a gym does. There's no TV screen to watch. There's no music, no earplugs on, like no, in your ears, and different things to distract you, because the point is to go inwards and to feel. You really want to go in there, and stuff will come up, and that shows you your work. So that's another example. When is it good to not feel well? Well, it's good to not feel well if that's giving you information about your life, about the situation you might be in, about some injustices maybe that you've experienced that you need to heal from, traumas that you've endured that maybe you haven't been prepared to look at before. Because in this work that I do, we know that when there's trauma, history of trauma, different kinds of things that we have not fully dealt with, it does impact us physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. It does impact us. And so that's when it's good to not feel well, because if you can become aware of where you need to work, and we know that doesn't feel well, that doesn't feel great. It doesn't feel great when somebody brings something to our attention that we have a lot of resistance around, let's say. That doesn't feel good, does it? But my thing was where I aligned with that teaching that my teacher gave me. So I took what he said and I applied that into my life. I want to know. Right? So it's an inner letting go of resistance, mental, emotional resistance around feeling, around taking the information. And really what you can do as well is to take things and say, well, am I like that? But be lighthearted, be honest with yourself. Don't run from the information, but don't swallow it whole without chewing on it either. You want to get that appropriate mirror. You want to be able to see, feel, so that you can transform that, so you can work with that. And this is what I'm hoping that this topic will do for you, is to open you up to, when you don't feel well, to realize that is serving you in some way. It's giving you information that you can take from there. Even if we want to talk about a purely physical level, when I'm not feeling well physically, right? What do most people do? They go to the doctor. And the doctor says, oh, I think you've got this. You've got this flu. Do this. Or, you fell down. You're not feeling well. Your arm's dangling. You got to go to the hospital and you got to get it casted and fixed. So this kind of work is different because mental, emotional, spiritual, inner work is different because we can avoid it. When you break your hand, it's so much more difficult to avoid that, right? You got to go get that repaired. But these other things that come up when we're not feeling well, it's information. And yeah, you know why? That's why our path with my Kung Fu teacher said this is the threefold path. It's the path of a warrior, warrioress, natural healer, and he would say spiritual guide, priestess, whatever you want to call it. And that is the first step is you need to be a warrior. So you do need to develop some fortitude of being able to look at these things, because it isn't always pleasant. But when things aren't pleasant, they're trying to tell us something. And so that's just what I'm going to ask you. And I'm going to ask you to be kind with yourself and to be patient with yourself. And that, yes, our psyche has an ability to protect us by sometimes we don't do certain work at certain points. But there's a big difference between us resisting ourselves because of a pattern we may have, or our psyche protecting us from certain things we're just not ready to deal with at the time. And that can be very real. That can be real. You'll know yourself, you know? Are you sick and tired of feeling the way you're feeling? You know, that's a good indication. I'm ready to look. I'm ready to dive in deeper. So I hope that this topic around when I'm not feeling well, can that be a good thing? Can that be a good sign? And I would say yes, when it tells you, when it serves you, tells you something about yourself that you can do something about. Okay, that's the key, that you can do something about, whether it's getting that support, learning more about that, doing something differently, making some new decisions, taking some action, or simply that it's telling you, hey, I need to rest. I need to chill. I need to slow down. Maybe I need to go within for a while and become more yin-like and let the answers come to me. It's not always the one way or the other that's the answer. Sometimes it's time for action in our lives. Sometimes it's time to write down practical steps and actually do them. Other times it's like it's dreaming time. It's time to be quiet and still and receive guidance and learning how to do that maybe. And maybe then there's a combination of things that we can put things like that together and do that. So that's some ideas around when I'm not feeling well. Can that actually be a good thing? So I hope that has brought you some light. Please like and subscribe and share with anyone that you feel might be interested in topics of this sort. Until next time.